2K released this video. One ring in 30 years. How did the Celtics won no titles after the big three? Let's get into it. Shout out to Don for the video, man.
Back of the rim. Go now. On the side. Here's a Curry way downtown. Oh, what a shot.
The following is meant to be a comprehensive account of how the Boston Celtics have won no championships since 2008.
Zero.
I make this video because it is the most common criticism of the franchise. They've got the most titles in NBA history. You hear a lot of talk from the Big Three team, yet a majority of their banners seem closer to the start of human life on Earth than recent times. So today I explore how that happened despite being so close and only spending 1 year truly rebuilding since that Celtics team. You'll have to forgive me, I lived every single moment of this in detail, so the video came out a little longer than I expected. Therefore, if you enjoy it, please leave a like. The fully expected 2008 title came on the heels of the biggest regular season turnaround ever. 24-58 in 07 to 66-16 in the ring year. Phase 1 to the revival of the dynasty was complete, as the formula had now been proven. You could in fact immediately trade/sign your way to a championship, which is a feat that you've surprisingly rarely seen since. In any case,
you know what's crazy? I genuinely think at this point, man, I'm the curse. I'm the curse in Beantown. Because for those who don't know, I immigrated to America in 2009. All right. So literally the year before I came to the States, the Celtics won. Ever since, my first year of watching NBA basketball for real was 2009, 2010. Celtics made it to the finals, cool, but they lost in 7. And ever since then, they have not won. Interesting. Yeah, it's me. It's me. I'm it, y'all. No, you know, it'd be crazy. Bandwagon. You know, Nolan, I have this theory. I think 95% of NBA fans are bandwagons. No cap. And they might have just stuck with that one team throughout the rest of their life, but I think a majority of fans are bandwagons. But you know what'd be crazy? If I moved out of state and the Celtics won the year after I moved out of the state, like that'd be crazy. That would actually be insane.
As Coach Doc Rivers would later remark, to truly be one of the special Boston teams in history, you needed to win 2 at least, which shouldn't have been a problem, by the way. However, to say the signs weren't there early would be false. The signs that, despite the talent, this unit needed everything working in its favor when push came to shove, which would become a frustrating theme throughout the next 14 years.
So if you couldn't pick the C's, what team would you root for? Listen, man. The only reason I'm picking Boston is because I moved to Boston. But I'm a Filipino at heart. And I understand the Steph Curry age brought in this new wave of Warriors Filipino fans. But real Filipinos are Laker fans. Like, I'm going to keep it a stack. Real Filipinos are Lakers fans. All right? These new age Bay Area Filipinos got me fucked up, man. No, man, stop it.
Oh wait, 2 unnecessary 7-game series against inferior rosters, then a final series against the Lakers team missing Andrew Bynum. By far the most troublesome of the 3 being their battle with LeBron's Cavs, who were fresh off a finals run that deemed them one of the worst finals rosters ever. Boston was pushed to the brink of elimination by the squad, a what if I mull over to this day. Those type of struggles seem to suggest if the Celtics suffered just one major injury or even faced better, healthier competition, perhaps there'd be problems. Or maybe there wouldn't, as the years piled up and the core became more and more familiar with each other. After all, it'd been the first go at it between a trio of stars who'd been first options the majority of their careers. Maybe this was the only year anyone would have a shot at beating them. Not a far-fetched theory, as the 2009 season rang and the green team was off to a 27-2 start by Christmas. Just for reference, the 73-9 Warriors were
27-2 is crazy. That is the Detroit Pistons record backwards plus 2 wins. Like, nah, that's dick suck. Yeah, that's dick suck. My bad, y'all.
and won by their Christmas Day game in 15. Ironically, the second loss was imprinted by the Los Angeles Lakers, who were bloodthirsty after the pounding they'd taken in Game 6 of the previous season's finals. The matchup displayed what everybody'd been thinking. This was the NBA Finals for at least a couple of more years. Celtics-Lakers was going nowhere anytime soon. Well, except for literally this exact season. In late February, reigning Defensive Player of the Year Kevin Garnett would go down with a non-contact knee injury just a few months before turning 32 years old. I bring up age only because it was probably the worst possible time a player with Garnett's circumstances could have had the injury. A big man who, at the point in time, was only a few years away from the start of his decline anyways.
KG
the injury
was
would
never
only
the
prove to
same
accelerate
after
that timeline in the long term, while in the short, almost completely cooking the Celtics front line in one fell swoop. Sans Garnett, their consistently useful big bodies were down to Kendrick Perkins and Glenn Davis. Leon Powe would go on to tear his ACL in Game 2 of the first round thriller against Chicago. Meanwhile, they'd already lost a lot of their forward depth in the summer of 08. So, about those warning signs from earlier, with no KG, the young 7-seeded Bulls with zero expectations despite the injury came within a hair of unseating the reigning champions, providing what could still be referred to as the greatest playoff series of all time. In reality, a first-round classic against a halfway decent unit shut all further hopes of a repeat down. The semifinals would present a better equipped upcoming Orlando Magic team headed by Dwight Howard, who'd send them packing in 7.
I'm not gonna lie, I like Dwight Howard. Well, before the recent allegations came around, I like Dwight Howard, but boo Dwight Howard, dog. Boo Dwight Howard for multiple reasons. We could have got 2 classic scenarios in NBA history if and only if the Magic just did not make the finals that year, man. Number 1 would have been a trilogy between the Celtics and Lakers for 3 years, and number 2 would have at the very least been Kobe versus LeBron. We missed out on those 2 scenarios just for Dwight Howard to make it to the finals and lose in 5. This is insane, bro. This is insane.
Not for the barely remembered Glenn Davis game winner in Game 4, I doubt the series even gets that far. Even with the disappointing exit, the 2 best teams left in the East were this young Magic team nobody fully believed yet, and LeBron's Cavs, who still had not acquired a legitimate duo partner for him. Alas, Boston would re-enter the mix immediately so long as free agency was successful and Garnett came back healthy. Crossing one of those items off the list, Rasheed Wallace and Marcus Daniels would join the fold in the summer, bolstering some of the size and depth they sorely lacked in the front court. Unfortunately, the big ticket that rejoined was a far cry from the player that signed in 08. Still good, still an all-star, yet he moved gingerly. The ability to dominate offensively on a whim was gone. He wore this giant sleeve on his leg that looked as if he just left the hospital. Long story short, he could be good for an entire season and playoff run, but probably not great. And if the last 2 years had shown anything, he needed to be great.
KG was
His
so
health going
solid,
forward
bro.
being one concern, Paul Pierce would randomly undergo arthroscopic surgery in December to alleviate a random knee infection,
The
which didn't end up
mid-ticket.
being
Not
a
too
huge
much
deal,
now.
although it was
Not too
scary
much.
with the team already operating on pins and needles. When it was said and done, Boston had managed only 50 wins, compared to their last 2 60-win seasons. A beautiful example in numbers of the trend line happening with this squad.
I need y'all to understand, by the 2010 season, because of these injuries, and I swear to God, someone better not fucking lie to me, the Celtics were viewed as an old team. I've seen some people try to pull this revisionist history that the Celtics were not considered an old team in 2010, when on God, I was hearing commentary back then that they were being called an old ass team. It was too late, which is crazy because it was only their 3rd year together. But yo, stop it. Stop it with that revisionist history, man.
Much of the campaign, they appeared old, slow, and tired. Contrasted by the Cavs, who were flying up and down the court in the midst of another LeBron MVP year, and the Magic, whose roster looked even better than the one that just granted them an NBA Finals berth. With the 50 wins earning the Celtics a 4th spot in the East, media and fans alike gave up on them, opting for a 2nd straight season of LeBron and Kobe matchup dreams. Of course, the plot got flipped on its head when Boston entered the playoffs and became very difficult to deal with for multiple games in a row. Sure, Garnett and the vets were aging, but Rajon Rondo had entered the stage as a premier name, upping the ante from his days as a tag-along name to the Big Three. Carrying
Second favorite player of all time, man.
Both
Big though.
Orlando and Cleveland fell in 6, clearing the path to another Celtics-Lakers finals as expected in 2009.
Nah, you know, I know Dom 2K is trying to paste this video properly, so I get it, but I think people have legitimately forgotten how good Rondo was in his prime. But I need to remind y'all why exactly Rondo became my favorite player ever. Number one, he's one of the first players I've ever seen that there's other players in the past that have probably done it, but for me, the first player I've ever seen that was able to control a game because of his passing. And maybe it was just my young eyes not really knowing what the fuck I was watching, but I swear to God, Rondo used to dominate games just with his passing. Let me show y'all some of these series and the numbers Rondo was putting up. Cause Rondo was on some shit this playoff run. First whatchamacallit? First series 15, 6, and 10, 2.4 steals, 42, 50, 83. Shit that doesn't really pop off your screen. That's fine. That's fine. That's still a good series though. This one against the Cavs, 21 points, 6 rebounds, 12 assists, 2 steals, 54, 33, 66% from the field. Those are insane numbers. And I think there's one of these games where Rondo had like a 20-20-20 game, bro. Was it game 4? Yeah, it was probably game 4. 29 points, 18 rebounds, 13 assists, 2 steals. Just flat out outplayed LeBron. Not too much on Rondo now. And then I think against the Magic, he started another great series. Okay, never mind. He was not as great as I remembered him. I just remember he had this one moment where him and Jason Williams were diving for a loose ball. Rondo dives, catches it between Jason Williams' legs, picks it up, crossover, banks it in, and the crowd goes crazy. But it's cool, man. It's cool, man. Apparently, I don't watch basketball, though. It's cool, man. It's cool.
2010 Finals became one of the fiercest of all time and a very worthy entry into the rivalry. Yet, reality had set in, with the vets offensively running out of gas to it.
The D-Black Renegade, that weekend. Yeah, not too much on that move now. Not too much on that move. Because you wouldn't get the setup. You don't get the setup. You don't get the setup. The setup would be a pick and pop with KG. All right? The first play down, Rondo pick and pop, and the way he would pass it would be the behind the back. Rondo goes over the screen, bop, KG hits that midi, right? The counter is, all right, let's run the play again. I'm feeling out the defense. They're on my hip. Fake. That's a layup. That's a layup. Yeah. That's real ball talk right there, man. Yeah.
For the end, and Garnett being left out to dry between LA's towering bigs when Kendrick Perkins went down with an ACL tear.
It worked. I didn't hate on it. I just hated that it worked.
It just wasn't meant to be. Kobe Bryant would get this round, marking sweet, sweet revenge. In summer 2007, at the introductory press conference, it would not have been unrealistic to expect a three-peat by the year 2010, with at least 2 championships being the bar. Headed into season 4, 1 title had been produced with an increasingly small window for another out of this core. Rondo was entering the absolute peak of his game, although it remained unclear how effective he'd be once the big 3 were in rocking chairs. Desperate times calling for desperate measures, the Celtics would sign Shaquille O'Neal, who was fresh off of being paired with LeBron, in an attempt to stop them. While it was clear he was no longer a main option on a title team, he could certainly be useful to a deep one. Jermaine O'Neal came along with Delonte West to join the fray, and the retooling reached its conclusion. Possibly the best.
I personally never got the hype with this squad specifically. To me, this is the Lakers retooling in 2021. This is the Lakers retooling in 2021, except the Celtics didn't even win the year prior. You know what I'm saying? Like, the way the Lakers retooled after winning a championship was so whack to me. And going into this year, I was like, okay, Jermaine O'Neal is cool. Shaquille O'Neal is cool. But none of the pieces that we brought in really is supposed to, like, take us to a whole nother level. You know, like, it was just... We were just signing big names. We were just signing big names, trying to make a veteran squad, go bigger, go home type shit. Kind of like what the Brooklyn Nets would do a couple years later. But none of this really added a level of dynamic to the team that I was afraid of. Shaq was always injured. Jermaine O'Neal was always injured. And we didn't really have... I think Eddie House was already out of this team by this point. Avery Bradley, this might have been like his rookie year, but yeah, I just didn't like how we constructed this team in 2011.
Best starting five in the league. Size, wing depth, guard depth, star power. This team would want for nothing ever again. The front office saw to it that a scoreless stretch such as the one responsible for losing them Game 7 would be highly unlikely
Nate
going
Robinson.
forward. Every action has a reaction though, and with 2 finals appearances in 3 seasons proving the formula had something to it, Pat Riley assembled a younger, better version of what the Celtics had done with the specific intent of replacing them. Miami was unable to replicate the depth in the first season, however, and opening night confirmed what many believed to be true. The original Moore season squad would be standing in the end. The original Moore season squad would not be standing in the end. While all on the floor together, the product was as magical as it appeared on paper. Who could have predicted that this would rarely ever be the case? Shaq, who was unironically a game changer when playing, was also quite literally on his last leg, only surviving for 37 outings before officially getting injured into retirement in the playoffs. While Garnett made it to 71 games, a December knee injury in Detroit served as a reminder his best days were behind him, and Celtic fans would forever be holding their breaths about his status and ability come playoff time. Delonte West snapped his wrist, limiting him to 24 games, while Jermaine O'Neal's knee swelling held him to the same amount. So not only were Kendrick Perkins placeholders not really placeholders at all, Danny Ainge traded him mid-season on the faith a hampered Shaquille O'Neal would be ready by playoff time. Shaq later revealed he told Danny not to do this. The idea was clearly twofold. Win a championship with the remaining bigs and newly acquired Nenad Kristic holding down the 5 come playoff time, whilst getting younger at the wing with Jeff Green, holding on to the possibility of he and Rondo bringing in the next era of Celtic basketball once time was up with this group.
I do remember that. What were we thinking, bruh? Oh my God. In hindsight, building around Jeff Green in hindsight is crazy. During that time, I kind of saw the vision. Kind of. I think they were trying to pull what the Rockets did with James Harden before that. You know what I'm saying? It was just Jeff Green peaked at like Andrew Wiggins level. You know? That's what Jeff Green was. And maybe that's really what rubbed me the wrong way about Andrew Wiggins in hindsight. It was the trauma of Jeff Green coming to the Celtics, thinking he'd be a star, and that never panning out. I'm really discovering some things here, y'all. And then every time I saw fucking Andrew Wiggins, I just saw Celtics Jeff Green. Now, is that nasty? Yes, probably, but it is what it is.
Was a somewhat brilliant idea. Back in the real world, damn near everyone was hurt by the time their second round battle with the Heat hit the calendar, including Rondo, who suffered a gruesome elbow dislocation in the middle of the series. A new era had dawned upon the East, as the Heat went on to figure out quite a bit about themselves
Jeff
in just 1 year with a much
Green.
younger and squire Big Three. How could the Celtics respond in
young
their
Jeff Green was like
ever-advancing age
Harrison
to finally
Barnes.
get that second title? They couldn't, to be brief. Well, but yeah, actually they could have. There were 2 trades Danny Ainge came within a hair of making for the lockout-shortened season. One came later on where a swap including Ray Allen and OJ Mayo would have occurred. Game changer? Unlikely. It was just Ray was aging, his contract expiring, and the title window was very likely closed or slightly cracked open at best. The transaction would have granted more youth, potentially more on-ball creation, whilst putting him on the opposite wing of Jeff Green
shout out
long
Jeff
term.
Green.
More on him in a second, by the way. It wasn't the first time Allen had been dangled as trade bait, which was only part of the growing
What y'all know about Von Wafer? Hold on. Let me see who's back here.
second, by the way. It wasn't the first time Allen had
What y'all know about Von Wafer, Luke Herringody, and Marquise Daniels, bro? Y'all don't listen, man. Y'all don't really know ball for real, man. It's cool.
been dangled
It's
as
cool,
trade
though.
bait, which was only
Yeah.
part of the growing
Big
tension
Luke
as free
Herringody.
agency loomed. It was actually in addition to his alleged role in the potential Chris Paul trade before the 2012 season began. The infamous Lakers veto was not the only deal in the works, as a CP3 Rondo swap was very much in play, which does in fact raise to the level of game-changing deals. As great
Now that deal right there, I forgot what Souls and Sage video we were watching. It might have been a Dom 2K video. I forgot why we didn't do the swap, but I think it was on some petty shit. The Celtics got Chris Paul. Oh my god. During that time, oh my god.
as Rondo was, he couldn't carry an offense. Defenses were very obliged to let his shooting go uncontested, and it very much felt as if the end of the Big Three era would
That was back then. Listen, I loved Rondo. Back then, I was actually team keep Rondo over trade for Chris Paul because I was just so I was traditional back then. I was on some, man, Rondo's our guy. He's a winner. What has Chris Paul done? Chris Paul has all the stats, but if you want to win in the playoffs, you keep Rondo. And that is why, and now I'm really unpacking the trauma, y'all. And that is why last season I was so mad at Celtics fans for wanting to keep Jaylen Brown when Kevin Durant is available. It's because these new age Celtics fans do not learn from history. And history tends to repeat itself. It is the exact same situation in a different era. You want to hold on to Jaylen Brown so bad because he's the homegrown guy. We went to the finals with this dude, etc., etc. When a clearly better player is on the market, we can win a championship with this other player. But you want to keep Jaylen Brown so bad because he's the homegrown talent. First of all, he's not even from here. And second of all, we probably would have had a fucking ring if we got KD, man. God, the trauma.
also expose him going forward. Apparently, Ray Allen agreed, with Kendrick Perkins reporting around a year ago Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett were a no-go on the deal, wanting to keep Rondo around, while Ray approved and pushed for it. The deal fell apart due to Paul's unwillingness to commit to the Celtics long-term, but Ray Allen claims in his book that Doc Rivers nixed the deal because he did not want to do it to Monty Williams, as in, he didn't want to ruin his career by making him deal with Rajon Rondo.
That was the petty shit. Oh my God, bro. Oh my God. Doc Rivers is a terrorist, bro. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, mind you, this is the same dude who the only reason KG damn near went to the Celtics was because Kevin McHale did his franchise a favor. Oh my God, bro.
Lore with Boston and Ray goes extremely deep, so much so that it deserves another video
all
on top
four
of the
of us
one I
live?
made many years ago. For the purposes of this flick, he's reported to have been a terrible teammate,
Sage is live.
claimed he carried the Vets to a
Damo's
title
live.
in 2008, and very
Omar
much
live?
soured
Is
on
Omar
Allen
live?
after they were nearly both dealt to the Suns for Amari
Omar isn't-
Stoudemire
okay.
around 2009 or 10. The two were said to have used boxing gloves to hash things
Yeah,
out
we
at
got
a point,
120 in
reported
here?
by Kendrick Perkins recently also. The relationship was so unsalvageable, in
Omar
fact,
Batu?
it seems to account for more than half the reason Allen left for Miami the following summer. Yes, let's address how it got there, by the way. No Chris Paul trade wasn't the worst of it for the 2011 offseason. Not only had the Jeff Green trade failed to yield a title in the short term, he now required heart surgery that would hold him out of the entire season.
Yeah, this was tough.
Even
This
worse,
was tough for him.
at just age 25, he wondered if he'd ever be able to touch the court again. So if you're keeping track,
Which, all troll aside, I am very happy for Jeff Green that he was able to make a recovery and be a very, very pivotal part to last year's champions. That's shout out to Jeff Green. Shout out to Jeff Green for that. And he's providing some really good veteran presence on the Houston Rockets as well. So
track at home, Ray, KG, and Paul were now 34, 35, and 36 years old. Allen had been part of multiple trade rumors, including one Rondo thought he was being blamed for, which torpedoed their relations. The front office's efforts to win while getting younger with Jeff Green had just lost a year of testing at minimum, and their new supporting cast wasn't anywhere near enough to account for it all. Thus, the 2012 season went about as mediocre as anyone could have expected, eking out 39 wins in a 66-game season. For reference, every contending team that year either won 50 games or were much closer to it. Knowing this, the era of expectation for Boston's Big Three was all but over, as even if they found...
Man, what y'all know about Prime Avery Bradley, man? Listen, there was, was it the Jeff Teague podcast? They were talking about, Drew Holiday right now or Avery Bradley. And right now, it sounds like what is this conversation? But you just had to be there, dog. Avery Bradley was viewed as the go-to guard stopper in the fucking league, dog. It was actually insane. And I seen that shit firsthand. What he did to Kyrie in some of those games. Couldn't score for shit is crazy. Avery Bradley could score, not too much. But the way he would clamp up Kyrie in some of those games, the way he would clamp up John Wall in some of those games, not too much on AB now. Not too much on AB.
Found some way to deal with Chicago's newfound contention led by D Rose. They
I remember
clearly
Steph
stood
said
no chance
Avery
against
Bradley
year
was
two
very
of the
difficult to play against.
Enter plot armor. For one of the rare times in recent memory they'd ever get it. During round 1, Rose would tear his ACL, immediately removing the Bulls from any serious playoff basketball. Round 2 would bring an abdominal injury to Chris Bosh, holding him out for the foreseeable future and leaving Wade and James to compete with the roster that was built to support 3 stars, not 2. Thus, round 3 featured a battered but seasoned Celtics core against 2/3 of Miami's Yes We Did party attendees, resulting in a 7-game series nobody saw coming. Despite the best possible efforts from what was left of their soldiers, LeBron would once again topple his arch nemesis, sending them to yet another offseason full of mostly unanswerable questions. The first of which being, what were they to...
Yo, Dom's funny. Because again, I understand it. Listen. I understand it. It's a Celtics video. He's trying to properly pace the video. But the way he just flashed over this series, like he doesn't know what the fuck happened in this series, is funny as fuck. No reference to Game 6 Bron. No reference to Paul Pierce game winner over LeBron in Game 5. No reference to the beatdown we got in Game 7 in Miami. Yeah, that's funny as fuck. That's funny
to
as
do
fuck.
with their disgruntled aging shooting guard who was currently the greatest shooter of all time. Sure, he was no longer what they ordered in 08. The party was clearly over without him, however. That much was clear. After many attempts to trade him, Rondo reportedly telling him he only had 11 games left as his teammate on the plane when Ray tried to patch things up, and the staff relegating him to the bench and building the offense around Rondo, which he saw as rewarding bad behavior, the decision really was not a hard one. That decision got even easier once Danny Ainge signed Jason Terry while simultaneously offering him less money than he asked for. The party was, in fact, over. After 5 years, 2 finals, and 1 title, the sharpshooter would spurn Boston for the team that just beaten them twice in a row, effectively blocking their second title. Rivals, if you will. If for some reason they did have a great summer and retooled the roster successfully, there was now a below 0 chance they'd ever touch the Heat in any case. They did not have a great summer, and Jeff Green returned as a mere promising role player who delusional fans held out hope could be the number 2 to Rondo in the coming years, replacing Paul Pierce. Perhaps there was some hope a combo of Jason Terry and Avery Bradley could replace an older Rays production well enough for them to get their foot in the door for contention once again come April. That hope died when Jason Terry got dunked on and... Oh, wait, no, sorry. That hope died when Rajon Rondo suffered a torn ACL at the end of January, which would not only thoroughly cook their 2013 hopes, but potentially bleed into the start of the 2014 campaign. Fully accepting these circumstances, once New York dashed their comeback hopes in the first round, rebuild time had finally arrived. The era would officially end with a single title to show for, which was a disappointment by virtually any standard set that day in the land before time. In late June of 2013, Ainge officially hit the button he'd been rumored to have been considering for some time now. The question had always been when and
KG.
not if pieces or all of the core would be traded.
KG
It was a tight-knit
y'all.
group. Loyalty just did not supersede the future in his eyes. So, wheeling and dealing, Boston would receive a haul of inconsequential players in the present, along with unprotected first-rounders for 2014, 16, and 18 in exchange for Pierce, KG, and Jason Terry. Brooklyn would be able to contend immediately as new ownership was keen on making a
This day was a sad day in Boston, man. This day was a sad day in Boston. And also because of the fact that, again, I was 13 at this time, and I'm gonna keep it a beat. I was watching basketball, but I wasn't as knowledgeable as I am right now. Excuse me. I looked at the return. I'm like, yo, these are our guys. And we only got Marshawn Brooks back? We only got Marshawn Brooks and Chris Humphries back? What is Danny Ainge doing? Didn't see the value in those Brooklyn picks. Now I do, obviously. But I'm like, I had that 2K mindset. Man, we're about to get an 80 overall in the draft. Like, what the fuck?
splash, while the Celtics would get time to see what they had with Rondo and Jeff Green, while also having picks and space as insurance if it went nowhere. It went nowhere. Rajon Rondo without attack dogs on the roster wasn't terrible. He still got off a near double-double average after returning in January. He also wasn't a piece.
Did it save our franchise? I personally don't think it didn't save the franchise. It really just, what it did was it accelerated the rebuild process very, very fast. Very, very fast. Because what year is this now? 2013. We're going into 2013-14. Let's get it. Shout to Kingdom Stuns for the sub. Appreciate you. So this is 2013-14. This is our first ass year. If we didn't get those picks, we probably wouldn't have pushed as hard as we did in 2016 and 17. We probably would have tanked a couple more years or just been naturally ass a couple more years. Because I think what the Nets picks allowed us to do was be very aggressive with just trying to set a winning culture, because of the fact that, okay, even though that, even though we're not gonna win anything with this core that we have, if we just set a culture and get on top of the winning, we're gonna bring rookies into some great, these high caliber, top 3 caliber rookies into great situations that they can learn from. And I think ultimately it worked out. It hasn't worked out to the level of winning a championship, but you can only control what you can control. So
strong enough to warrant waiting to build around, rather than cashing him out for other pieces outright. 82 games of first option Jeff Green revealed he was not a first option.
Nope.
He acknowledged as much at the end of the season, telling reporters he, quote, couldn't do it alone, and that he didn't know how to handle being the go-to guy, specifically citing preferring jumpers as opposed to trying to get to the rim due to the level of defensive attention he was now receiving. If you knew anything of what Boston fans expected from Green the day he arrived in 2011, eventual rim pressure and on-ball creation with the help of his athleticism was absolutely the dream years down the road. He's shown flashes of it in OKC, yet between his heart surgery and the now live samples, it was clear this was as good as it was going to get. With only one pick in the 2013 draft, Ainge would trade up to Dallas, acquiring Kelly Olynyk. In case you're wondering where some of our heads were at during the summer, there was a Celtics blog post asking why he couldn't become the next Dirk. Comparisons the legend himself had to shoot down a few years later. Okay, so 2014 sucked as expected. However, as a Celtics fan, I can say I feel as if it's the only rebuild season I've ever.
Oh my God. I forgot his name. Obviously, his name is Presley. That guy used to throw dots. That guy used to throw fucking dots, bro. Fuck, I'm forgetting his first name. Shout out to Presley. He used to be one of my favorite backup point guards in the league.
ever lived through. Low key, it very
Phil
much is.
Presley. I think his
They've made
name
the
is Phil
playoffs
Presley.
every single
Paul
season
Presley?
since, and for good reason too. With pick 6 in the 2014 draft, Boston would select Marcus Smart, who wasn't that far removed from pushing a fan in the stands, which I thought would end up being a far bigger deal. I'll go on in hindsight to say it displayed his passion. After 22 games,
Big
averaging
Smart?
8 points on 40%, Rondo and Dwight Powell, by the way, were shipped to Dallas
Phil,
for Jameer
yes,
Nelson,
sir.
Jay Crowder, Brandon Wright, a 2015 first and a 2016 second pick. This ran the total up to 8 draft picks over the next 4 years. Parting ways with a supposed top PG and the final remaining piece of the 2008 title team, the rebuild was officially in full throttle. Not before getting rid of Jeff Green, of course. Both sides knowing he'd never be what they hoped, the front office cashed him out for a draft pick as well, while obtaining Tayshaun Prince and Austin Rivers in return, both of whom they quickly swap away for players and a second round
Jared
pick. No one could
Sullinger.
quite say for sure when Beantown would be relevant.
Yo, Jared Sullinger was the first player in the league that I legitimately saw had weight issues. Like I never thought NBA players would have weight issues because they're professional fucking athletes until I saw Jared Sullinger. Not too much on Jared Sullinger because I love Jared Sullinger. But man, some of those Jared Sullinger was looking big as shit, man.
Again, except for the
Thickums
loudest,
for him.
smallest person in the room. In the final minutes of the 2015 trade deadline, Ainge finessed a deal with the Suns acquiring offensive mini guard Isaiah Thomas for Marcus Thornton and a 2016 first. IT had been managing 15 points a game on a team also employing Goran Dragic and Eric Bledsoe. One of the weirdest, semi-successful units I can remember. Joining a
That was a weird
conglomerate
year.
of
They
decent
won like 50
players,
games.
Boston would scrounge together a near 500 record to sneak back into the playoffs for a first-round bout with,
Prime
once again,
IT.
LeBron James. Only back with Cleveland
guy,
now.
this
A
guy.
quick and predictable sweep
This guy.
ensued, yet there was something to be said about a squad that took only 1 year of downtime to amass both
that
picks
James
and
Young?
a roster talented
Young
enough to
Marcus
avoid
Smart?
tanking even for a small
Yeah.
time. Clearly something special was looming. 2016 was a fairly unremarkable season in the story, outside of two
Let me see some notable. This is Cody Zeller. This is David Lee. Y'all don't remember Celtics David Lee.
notables.
Y'all don't remember Celtics David Lee. This might just be. I think this is just a practice dude. I ain't gonna lie.
At pick 16, they would luck into Terry Rozier, who would matter much sooner than later. Then, despite the roster not changing a bunch, the Celtics would amass a
Jonas
48-win
Jerebko?
record that was tied for third best in the East, behind a much improved year under
Hold on,
Isaiah
hold on.
Thomas, who
Let
would
me see.
become a first-time All-Star, averaging 20
Yeah, that's Jay Sully right there. That's Amir Johnson. Yeah,
2 points and 6
it's the
assists.
crew right here,
I can't
man.
say
It's
for
the
sure
crew.
whether anyone ever had a 5'9" guard down for All-Star
Hold
and
on.
best player on a team throughout
Hold
the future.
on.
So the
Yeah, we've been cooking D-Book. We've been cooking D-Book. And this is probably the game he dropped 71 points. But who cares? We got the dub.
The fact that it was happening was amazing because the best hadn't even come yet. Ousted by the Hawks in the first round, it'd be the
This is a funny picture. Little does he know, this will actually be his favorite place to play in.
last time they weren't a major figure in the East for years to come. Once again, only 2 seasons after ridding themselves of Pierce and Garnett. By the way, the chickens from that trade had officially come home to roost, as with the 3rd overall pick in the 2016 draft, Jaylen Brown was chosen to don the green. One of 8 players they selected that year. Not only
Jaylen Brown's career is so interesting because we have gotten to a point where you can make a case that he is underachieving, when in all actuality, compared to where he was going into his draft, Jaylen Brown has exceeded all expectations anyone has ever had for him. I'm not gonna lie, because if y'all went into that draft, looking back, you can even make the case that it's a 4-man draft at the top between Jaylen Brown, Brandon Ingram, Jamal Murray, and essentially going into that draft, it was Ben Simmons and Brandon Ingram. Yeah, PK, I didn't want to say it. PK, I didn't want to say it. But going into that draft, the draft board was Ben Simmons at 1, Brandon Ingram at 2, and everyone else is a crapshoot. The fact that Jaylen Brown has turned into an even All-NBA caliber player, a perennial All-Star player, is actually a crazy overachievement because back then, we deadass didn't know who we wanted. Jaylen Brown or Chris Dunn. Everyone was saying Chris Dunn was the next Chris Paul. Chris Paul, John Wall hybrid. They were saying that. Dragan Bender had a chance to be the next Kristaps Porzingis, you know? Buddy Hield had a crazy season out of Oklahoma. I was personally a really big Buddy Hield fan going into that draft because I saw what he did in Oklahoma. Josh Jackson's the year after. But Jaylen Brown, he was supposed to be in the late 10s. But the fact that when he was drafted number 3, I was like, yo, whoa. Number 3 is kind of crazy. But
did he add more wing depth? With his draft position, the obvious hope was for him to become the official shooting guard of the future.
With the left?
As while Avery Bradley had done well in his years there, he was no franchise piece. Speaking of one of those, the IT story was encouraging. Was he capable of being the element to restore a franchise to glory though? Small, defensive liability, probably a cap on how well he could do offensively in the coming years. There needed to be more, right? So just like everyone else that summer, Boston threw their caps into the Kevin Durant sweepstakes even after having acquired Al Horford in free agency. For the time being, 2 All-Stars decorated the roster, along with decent role players and recent picks with potential to become stars or dangerous pieces. Throwing Durant into this mix would officially bring back championship expectations, likely—
Stop! Yo, I've never kept up with Twitter rumors as much as this offseason, bro. Because the fact that when Woj tweeted out the names Kevin Durant was meeting with and the Celtics were on that list, bro, oh my God, I was ready. I was so... here we go, unpacking the trauma again. I really think one of the reasons why I could be a bigger fan of KD is because there's been 2 opportunities for this man, really 3 opportunities for this man to possibly be a guy in green, but it never fucking happened. Never happened, man. Yo, I was ready for Kevin Durant and Isaiah Thomas to beat the brakes out the Warriors, dog. I was so fucking ready for it, man. God.
Making it one of the shortest rebuilds
Tiny
on
Moses,
record.
there's an alternate universe where I am legitimately a Wayne stan, and I am arguing that he's better than LeBron.
Signing with the Golden State Warriors, the 73-9 team. Now, for the time being, almost regardless of what the Celtics or anyone else did, winning a title was out of the question for—
How many gifted to continue the league after the pod? After the pod, we're gonna do playback. And I need to wake up at 8. We're going to be driving at 8, so I need my rest. I ain't going to lie. There's nothing that's going to be... there's nothing that's going to force me to continue the league today, man. My bad, Persian. My bad.
For as long as he wore that jersey. Of course, this did not stop business as usual or future aspirations. The mark would move to 53 wins, and Isaiah Thomas was now putting up nearly 30 points a game on good efficiency while having his name mentioned in MVP conversations. Regardless of if anyone had ever foreseen an All-Star, there's no one who was claiming future MVP mentions. Marcus Smart's role had grown, with the overall team production suggesting they'd moved into the one-piece away territory. That theory was seriously battle-tested in the first round when they were so very clearly about to lose to the Bulls led by Rondo, Wade, and Jimmy Butler.
Right,
in one more plot armor twist, Rondo would go down with injury and they'd complete the reverse sweep after having lost both home games, which had been a huge disappointment.
Pushing, man.
Regardless, they survived a thriller against the Wizards.
If there's one thing you can do to trigger Celtics fans, remind them about the first 2 games of this series. Because again, when I tell you Rondo has this weird characteristic about him to control a game through his passing and just dissecting your defense, watch the first 2 games of Bulls Celtics 2017. Rondo was picking us apart. Holy shit.
Which became Kelly Olynyk's greatest moment as a Celtic in Game 7. Then predictably be stamped out by the Cavs in the conference finals, adding another LeBron loss to the total. The loss itself was not the important part. Surprisingly, it was well known that if you weren't the Cavs, Warriors, or
Rondo figured us out. If y'all have ever seen those stories about LeBron calling out plays and against the Raptors and making them feel like literally there's nothing they can do to stop him, That's what it felt like watching Rondo play against us. It's like, yo, okay, he is just blowing up everything. Like, holy shit.
Or Spurs, you could pretty much forget realistically emerging from your
I'm sure
conference.
there's several
and
ways
you
to
could
trigger
definitely
something.
forget
Yes,
winning
there
a
actually
title
is.
as an Eastern
There
team if you
actually
did
is.
somehow defeat
But
Cleveland.
that's a deep cut. If
Worse
you
for
need
everyone
something that's a
involved
deep
was
cut,
IT's hip
yeah, that's a
injury,
deep cut
which
right
caused
there.
him to miss the rest of the series after Game 2. What appeared to just be a bump that caused swelling and irritating was later found to be an event which essentially ruined his career. In a season where he'd made the contractual expectations clear by stating the front office would, quote, have to back up the Brinks truck,
Yeah, back
this
up the
seriously
Brinks
could
trucks.
not
I
have been
remember
worse
that.
timing. An Isaiah-less Celtics team, however, would set them back years, given he was statistically the best scoring punch they'd had since prime Paul Pierce. Still, tying up future-altering money in a small guard who now sustained a potentially significant injury would have been a decision. Telling him he was okay to play despite the growing concerns over his hip was also a decision.
That
One
game was
Thomas still
nasty.
blames to this day for how his career's turned out. In any case, as mentioned earlier, loyalty was never to come before the future under Danny Ainge, meaning the first chance he got, he found an upgrade. Kyrie Irving. Somehow during an era where it seemed he, LeBron, and Love could get to the finals in the East at will, he was now asking for a trade, presenting the perfect opportunity for Boston to strike. Shortly after selecting Jason Tatum with another third overall pick, then signing All-Star Gordon Hayward through free agency, they'd send Thomas, Jay Crowder, Ante Zizic, and Brooklyn's 2018 first rounder to Cleveland in exchange for Kyrie Irving. I could not believe this trade actually happened.
I never thought this was gonna work. I ain't gonna lie, because I think looking back too, like Hayward really wanted to play with Isaiah Thomas specifically, and this was not the duo that was supposed to gel and work together. To be honest with you, also that Hayward injury fucked up a lot of things. The Isaiah Thomas injury fucked up a lot of things, but also in hindsight. Not to say it was a blessing, not because that's definitely the wrong word to say. But I think the injuries that happened to Kyrie, number one, Kyrie, Isaiah Thomas, and Gordon Hayward, in retrospect, allowed room for Tatum and Brown to become the players that they are right now. I don't think those two become the players that they are right now if it wasn't for the space that those injuries allowed for them to grow, specifically in 2018. So it's a catch-22 situation. So, and yes, this will be on YouTube.
All in one summer, a roster that could conceivably contend morphed into a potential clear favorite in the conference to reach the finals, even if beating Golden State was still out of the question. Regardless, 2018 would be the first season including any real expectations since around 2011 or 12, which counted as a fantastically quick turnaround considering they only missed one season of competitive basketball at all. Now, a goddamn disaster. The Celtics under Kyrie would go on a long winning streak nobody remembers, as both Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum stepped right into the leftover shots Hayward would have consumed. Terry Rozier was all too excited to take whatever leftovers he could find for himself, and the depth was evident. Good thing too, because in what would become a theme throughout his career, Irving would randomly disappear, this time through knee troubles that required surgery late enough to scratch him from that year's playoffs. It had to be over now, right? Both star acquisitions done for the season, mostly young pieces left over. This was a first round out at best. Except the 55 wins they'd managed, even with all the issues, should have signaled what was coming. The Jays.
There were so many opportunities for us to fucking win a championship during the last couple of years, man. I swear to God. Man. No cap. Number one is obviously 2022. It was up 2-1. It was right there. It was tangible. Number two, 2018. I don't think we beat the Warriors. I do think we make the finals if Kyrie was healthy. 2019, bro, I was convinced Kyrie was trying to get AD to come over to the Celtics, and apparently the only thing that was holding AD from wanting to go to the Celtics was how the Celtics treated Isaiah Thomas. I swear to God, that was the only thing holding us back, and I'm going to keep it a stack, and this is going to sound crazy, but in hindsight, even if it costed us Jason Tatum, I would have traded that for AD. In hindsight, yes. Because in 2019, bro, imagine that squad with 2019 Anthony Davis. Again, y'all need to remember who Anthony Davis was in y'all know Bubble AD. But there's a reason why there was a lot of hype when LeBron and AD came together is because of how dominant AD was in 2018, 2019. And in hindsight, if those injuries still happen to Golden State, with KD, with Clay, that's a ring. That's a ring. In the same way, the Lakers do not give a fuck about how Brandon Ingram, Julius Randle, and them develop because they got their ring in 2020. That would have been us in 2019. That would have been us in 2019. I don't give a fuck how good Jason Tatum gets. We got our ring with AD and Kyrie. I don't give a fuck. Same thing with De'Aaron, the De'Aaron Tyrese situation with Sacramento. If the Kings, I don't think it's going to happen, but if the Kings get a ring with De'Aaron and Sabonis, you think they care how good Tyrese is going to be? No. Absolutely not. So with the Celtics, it would have been the same thing. And YG Tundre said 2019 AD sat out the season. He only sat out the season because of the fact that he wanted to force out a trade. And I think in 2019, the Celtics had all the fucking assets in the world to get whoever they want. But the Celtics were playing too scary. They were playing too scary. And also, hey, the trade chip, the asset that was going to take them over the hump just didn't want to go to Boston. So that's tough. That's tough, man.
He's both averaged 17 a game through the remainder of the campaign without Irving and entered the playoffs situated at the 2nd seed. Surviving a 7-game series with Giannis, who was seen as the heir apparent in the East, then absolutely blasting the Sixers in round 2, who were also thought to be furiously ringing in a new era, Boston was poised for their first finals appearance since the start of the decade, only needing to get through LeBron to do it. Only. It seems simple enough given the 2018 Cavs turned out to be a train wreck, with James now manning his worst roster since 07. It was not simple. Although it'd been a
I never underestimated LeBron. Never. Before 2012, I was on some hater shit with LeBron. After 2012, I had to, like, even as a Celtics hater even as a LeBron hater back then, I had to respect LeBron and how good he was. After 2016, that is when I personally became a LeBron fan. After 2016, that's when I personally, as a Celtics fan, became a LeBron fan. 2018, the way LeBron was playing those first 2 rounds, even as a Celtics fan, I don't give a fuck what is going on. I've seen what LeBron has done to the Celtics before. I'm seeing what he's doing right now. There is no reason I should not respect LeBron going into this series. Never thought it was going to be a cakewalk. Never thought it was going to be a cakewalk. And everything he did in this series proved exactly why.
Understood a healthy Celtics team was likely to make quick work of Cleveland, LeBron put up one of his best performances ever, laced with championship experience to
This matchup right here is like facing the Heat now. I don't give a fuck if the Heat are a playing team. If the Celtics and Heat play in the playoffs, it's gonna be a war. That's me. If we somehow, the Warriors make a Cinderella run to the finals, went to 7 games every single round, and then the Celtics swept every single round leading up to the finals. Oh, Steph Curry's on the other side of the court. Listen. I got too much respect for Steph Curry. I don't give a fuck how good my team is playing. I got too much respect for the Warriors to say that this is just gonna be a cakewalk. No, sir. No, sir.
Overcome an 0-2 deficit and win Game 7 on their home floor. The 5th time he'd eliminate them since being thwarted on his way to the finals in 2010. There didn't feel like a ton to do in the 2019 offseason, but pray given the state of the roster. Over the recent years, drafting had gone great, signing had gone great, on-court development was where it needed to be. What was left besides just being there to play ball? Well, for one, maybe there just wouldn't be enough of them. Brown, Tatum, and Rozier all became accustomed to their roles in 18, which brought
2019 was, up until today, just from a talent perspective, I think that's the deepest team I've ever seen. There's probably deeper teams in history.
Let's get it.
Shout out to Chris John for the gifted. One away from the sub goal. Yeah, but that's probably the deepest team I've ever seen from a talent perspective. Like it didn't work because of the fit and everything that went along with that season. But yo, we had a lot of good talent, and I think we were like 10 deep that year of, to put it into 2K perspective, 80 overalls. I might need to look back, but yeah, this season, that's a deep-ass team.
Them to the doorstep of an NBA Finals berth quite far ahead of schedule. Initially, the prospect of throwing Irving and Hayward back onto a roster with so much success seemed fail-proof. Rather, it turned out being most of the problem. Nothing but smiles filled the Garden to begin with. Kyrie sat mid-court, serenading the crowd with reassurance of his imminent re-signing plans. After all, the Thomas trade seemed like a steal when the risk was the time associated.
It's gonna make me cry, man. Shout out to Persian for the gifted, man. Big Persian with the gifted, and we got the 8, man. And we got the 8. This shit right here, man. And this is what's crazy about Boston media. They twisted this to saying Kyrie lied. Even if we go verbatim, Kyrie specifically said, if y'all would have me, I would love to resign. By the end of the season, newsflash, Boston hated Kyrie. So if y'all have ever quoted the if-then statement, the first if statement failed. So why the fuck would I stay? Y'all don't even want me here. Y'all don't even want me here. So what are we doing? What are we doing?
With it. If nothing significant transpired in 2 years, they could lose Irving with zero return. At the time of the signing, this was the doomsday scenario with nobody knowing what Tatum and Brown could become. Doomsday approached quickly with their first sub-50 win season since 2016 via a roster that was thought to have 60 win potential. 2019 for the Celtics was a season plagued by bad losses, terrifyingly non-committal comments by Kyrie Irving, waiting and hoping for Hayward to regain star form, waiting and hoping for the Celtics to reach theirs. None of the above would ever materialize, culminating in a rematch with the now contending Bucks where you could just see Kyrie waiting for the clock to hit 0 with his departure in mind. Anyone who couldn't see he was gone after the All-Star tunnel video with Kevin Durant was simply in denial. Too many coincidences had piled on by that point. If one good thing at all had come from this year, it was the random drafting of Robert Williams at pick 27 before the season. They were gonna need him. After World B. Flat predictably did the dash, a scenario that once seemed dire turned out not.
Did he call him World B. Flat? wait, let me do. Wait.
Before the season, they were gonna need him. After World B. Flat predictably did the dash, a scenario that once seemed dire turned out
World B.
not
Flat
that
is
bad
funny
at
as
all.
fuck, bro.
In his place, their second tiny point guard in 3 years, acquiring Kimball Walker in a deal involving Terry Rozier. Fresh off of a 25 point per game season, perhaps his playstyle and personality could be less invasive than what Irving brought to the table with similar scoring. Perhaps he would also start dealing with consistent knee troubles for the first time in his career. In a complete shock move, which ended up making little sense, Al Horford would opt out of his contract to sign a 4-year deal with Philly, leaving center minutes mostly split between Daniel Tice and Enes Kanter. Fortunately, the wing duo were continuing to take strides, while Hayward recovered to an acceptable level. Marcus Smart by this time.
Hayward was actually playing really well this season. Let me look back. Because I was of the belief that, like, Hayward, Brown, and Tatum making it work just wouldn't be a thing. But in 2020... Hayward was putting up 18 points, 4 assists, 7 rebounds. Close to 50-40-90 splits. I remember this season. Yeah. The most underrated team post-IT era, or IT era and on, that 2020 team was fun as fuck to watch. There were so many great teams in that 2020 season that I feel like just kind of got forgotten because of everything that happened that year. But the 2020 Celtics were a very, very fun team to watch. Even in the bubble, that 7-game series we had against the Raptors was crazy. That was a crazy-ass series, dog. And then we went to 7 against Miami too, I think, right? Or did we lose in 6? Let me double check. In 2020, I'm pretty sure we went to 7 with Miami. No. Okay. Miami beat us in 6. But I remember that Bam block on Jason Tatum. That was insane. Kemba was decent this year too. It was just, Hayward got injured at some point. Tatum, he should have stepped it up. I ain't gonna lie. Because Jaylen Brown was actually pulling his weight. Kemba could have played a little better. Marcus Smart was... these are Marcus Smart ass numbers. But yeah, Hayward went down. Our depth was this a 5-man? Like depth was really bad for us. Grant Williams was not who Grant Williams was a couple years ago. So yeah, this series was fun though. This series was fun as fuck to watch. But yeah, this team, specifically the way Hayward, Kemba, Brown, Tatum, and Smart gelled was actually fun as fuck to watch.
Had claimed his title as heart and soul of the team. Meanwhile, another draft blessing was realized through Grant Williams at pick 22. The 2020 Celtics were back to the halfway point of contention despite the summer 2017 plot having failed. Maybe the roster was good enough to get to the finals now, though it was probably still a piece or two and some core development away from really being expected.
It was a weird mix of Kemba and Hayward. It was a weird mix of a team that was able to make the finals. Loki, from a talent perspective, had championship aspirations. But if you match them up against the Lakers, I think the Lakers beat us in 5. And also, Tatum and Brown were just too young to put that much on Tatum and Brown. And I think that's the bad. I think that's the worst part about how the Celtics rebuild was they put themselves in the position to have championship aspirations, to have championship expectations, being led by players that just aren't ready to do just that. You know what I'm saying? Like, typically what happens is, like, a typical career cycle. And again, there's atypical examples. Magic Johnson being one of them. Larry Bird being one of them. But the typical cycle is this. A player gets drafted to an ass team. They rebuild around that player, right? For the first 6 to 7 years of a player's career, that player's job is to develop. That player's job is to grow so that by year 6 and 7, that team has surrounded that player with pieces. And by year 6 and 7, we can now compete when that player is ready to lead the team to a title. Right? That is the typical cycle. But what happened with the Celtics was Tatum was asked to do that by year 3. You know what I'm saying? Because 2020 was year 3. Tatum was asked to do that by year 3 because there was a lot of talent on this team that wanted to win a championship, that came here to win. They are here to win now. Tatum was asked to do that in 2022 when he's 24. When Brown is 25. You know what I'm saying? Typically those expectations, even when it comes to a Michael Jordan, you don't have those expectations until year 8. Until year 9. But with these guys, it just came too fast. Pause. You know? But it is what it is, man. We're making it work.
Season shutdown right in the thick of things didn't necessarily help, as COVID stopped all plans in their tracks, returning months later in a bubble environment, which still draws the ire of many today. 43 wins to 21 losses at the shutdown suggests another 50-win season was on its way, potentially becoming the 3rd in 5 years. Regardless, Disney basketball gave the vibe that anything could happen, so rolling the ball out to settle matters was necessary. Smacking the Ben Simmons-less Sixers was no problem once again. The reigning champion Raptors lost their bite without Kawhi, yet it still took a ridiculous Game 7 to get the job done, landing the Celtics in their 3rd conference finals in 4.
You know what the Heat are? I'm gonna keep it a bean. The Heat are the modern day late 2000s Magic, man. That's what they are. Just sparing us from great finals matchups. It's cool though. It's cool. They beat us fair and square. I'm not gonna act like, but Let me not get my soapbox.
A finals
man.
berth. That's the point where it feels the questions about Celtics' success began to arise.
Cool.
When exactly were they going back to the finals? When exactly were they going to win another one? The Big Three delivered their only title since the 80s, which wound up feeling underwhelming, and the rebuild from that core was currently 12 years removed, with not a single finals appearance to show for after 3 third-round appearances. I think the problem was 2017 and 2018 were runs that happened a good bit before anyone actually expected anything from them, seeing how one roster wasn't respected and the other was injured. Regardless, slander territory had been entered, and Kevin Durant's Warriors disappeared into thin air, so any contending roster was no longer receiving grace for their lack of banners. 2021 proved to be an even weirder year than the previous. No fans in the original stadiums, pumped in crowd sounds, all types of COVID replacement players for uncomfortably long stretches. Beginning in December as bubble basketball
Tatum don't even be sidestepping like that, man. Y'all remember sidestep Tatum? 2020, 2021, just spamming that shit. I miss that Tatum. I ain't gonna lie. He doesn't, you know what I'm saying? He doesn't sidestep it. Yo, I seen someone on the timeline said, yo, Jason Tatum needs to move on from Drew Hanlon. Because Drew Hanlon is fucking up Jason Tatum's game. Oh, my God, bruh. Oh, my God. Imagine you didn't play that nobody really knows. Wait, imagine you didn't play that nobody really knows about to take down Latina supposed to win championships in the last 4 years. What? That's why you don't say that with the mic. What are you talking about? What?
Wrapped up in October, each organization just had to thug it out. The last man standing in July would be crowned champion. Despite Tatum and Brown both taking leaps, officially becoming all-stars together for the first time, Kemba's knee issues would worsen, jerking him in and out of the lineup while mostly rendering him useless and unavailable for the playoffs. Refusing to stop there, Jaylen Brown tore a ligament in his wrist, snatching him from the rest of the season and playoffs. Gordon Hayward's efficient 18 points a game via recovery lost to the Hornets in free agency with no actual replacement. Long story short, Boston employed a total of 21 players throughout the injury-riddled 72-game season, rolling into the playoffs on 2.5 wheels to face Brooklyn's newly minted Big Three. Atomic bomb versus coughing baby would be an accurate description. Being quickly and predictably disposed of, Boston had suffered its first early playoff exit since 2016. Where to now? In a surprise move, Brad Stevens would supplant Danny Ainge as executive, hiring
I've never seen Boston. I was at that game, dog. I was at this specific game. I've never, yeah. That really pissed Boston off, dog. That really pissed the fuck out of Boston. Oh my goodness. Shit was crazy.
Supplant Danny Ainge as executive, hiring Ime Udoka to replace him as coach. His first move in the front office? Righting a wrong by sending the declining Kemba Walker to OKC to bring back Al Horford, who'd mostly just been lost in randomness since leaving in 2019. The Wings had progressed enough to cover the on-ball creation mostly. The paint, however, had been sweet basically for the past 2 seasons. With him and recent draft pick Robert Williams taking over, the Celtics were onto something special in the near future. A few more details needed to be sorted. Details such as what to do about the 500 start they were off to by January. Using any measure, the situation was looking dire. Brown and Tatum were in year 4 of their partnership and fresh off of an injury-riddled first-round exit, presently appearing to be a bottom.
I'm gonna be honest, I did not see 2022 being the year we made the finals. I did not see that. We started off the season slow as fuck too. And I was ready for this conversation. This conversation being had on the screen, I was ready to have this conversation. I was ready to have the, who is really better between Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown conversations. I was really ready to have those conversations, dog. But by the end of the season, shit got fleshed out. Shit got fleshed out. And the advanced analytics were really pointing towards Boston making it to the finals, man. Like, shit, this was a fun year, man. 2022, even though we lost, bro, 2022 has to be like a top 5 year in the last 6 years, man. No cap. Yeah, 2022 was fun, man. That was for me, and maybe I'm tripping, that was the first year, like, the pandemic really felt over for me. And that's just me, you know. Everyone else has different experiences. And then just from a basketball perspective, fun-ass basketball being played. Fun-ass basketball being played. And as a Celtics fan, it was fun as fuck for me. And I think that was the year, let's Keep It a Buck blew up, you know what I'm saying? And this is probably just a personal thing. Let's Keep It a Buck blew up that year. Souls and Sage really took off that year too. I love 2022, man. 2022 is a special year for me. Oh, 2022 was also my first year being full-time as a content creator. So that's some big shit right there. I got my first apartment. Man, I love 2022, man. Love 2022.
Feeding East team, how much time was left after coming so close so many times? Had they peaked too early? Would Stevens be forced to trade Jaylen Brown sooner than later as a massive extension loomed? With a record of 26-25 on January 31st, Brown tweeted, quote, "The energy is about to shift." The energy did indeed shift. An 8-game win streak would follow, along with a trade bringing in Derek White for Josh Richardson, Romeo Langford, a 2022 first-round pick, and a 2028 first-round pick swap.
What a crazy steal, bro.
The game was set. Brad Stevens had finally completed the secret formula. 2 all-star wings, a defensive menace in Marcus Smart, another ball-handling defensive pest in Derek White, a defensive big man combo allowing Rob Williams to roam off non-shooters as Horford held down the paint, and a couple of more bench pieces. Of course, following typical Celtic luck through the recent years, William would require knee surgery. He'd be permitted for a return in the playoffs, yet as a big man relying almost exclusively on his athleticism, the flag was extremely red. In any case, 51-31 became the finishing record, losing merely 5 games after Brown sent his tweet in January. Marcus Smart took home Defensive Player of the Year, with Williams also qualifying as a candidate. They were so back. Brooklyn's super team scheme had fallen apart, leading them to be swept in the opening round. Chris Middleton began his journey of injuries, missing the second, just barely cracking the door enough for Boston to advance to yet another playoff bout with the Heat. Through a very weird 7-game series, they'd emerged victorious after narrowly avoiding the craziest last-minute meltdown in history. The Jimmy Butler attempt still evokes nightmares today. Thus, Boston had done the deed. 14 years
Dom is a real Celtics fan, man.
12 years removed from the last
he knows how to really speak to a
4 years
Celtics
since
fan,
fans
man.
began to bring back expectations. A single finals berth had been granted. Unfortunately, despite having lost KD, Golden State had gone nowhere, with 2022 being their first season of health since the 2019 finals. Picking up where they left off, the entire core was out with something to prove, but especially Steph, who'd constantly been having the validity of his 3 rings questioned. The Celtics would feel the full force of this, despite having a golden...
Man, God. Oh, 2022 was also the first time I went to a finals game. Like, that was... Shout out 2022, man. God. And in hindsight, I'm glad I did, bro. I'm glad I did go to that game. Even though we lost, bro, that's something I can always tell someone. I was there during a part of Steph Curry's 4th ring. I was able to see Steph Curry still in his prime. That's a generational, once in a generation type of player. I was able to see the Celtics in their first finals appearance since 2008. And we won too. So that day specifically was good.
Opportunity to take a 3-1 lead on the home turf. They should have taken a 3-1 lead on the home turf. There was simply no real answer to defending Curry with either of their big men on the court.
Yeah.
Jason Tatum put up a full-on stinker whilst being clamped down by Andrew Wiggins, and Draymond Green would later go on to reveal that a whole game plan involved sending Jaylen Brown left, the second best player on a championship hopeful team being challenged by a grade school rule. Despite the improbable midseason turnaround, preparation had failed to meet the situation as Golden State celebrated a title on their home floor after 6. 1 championship in 36 years. No championship since 2008, and that was a super team. 3 conference finals and an NBA finals since 2017. When were they going to win one? Good news was it at least seemed close. The roster was clearly adequate. Ime Udoka had worked miracles. Time and maturation seemed to be what was left on the checklist after the mini meltdown occurrences. Ime Udoka suspended. Yeah, he violated multiple team policies on top of the cardinal sin, stepping out on the along. Regardless of how...
He could have just left his penis alone, man. God, man. We've had so many blown opportunities in the last 5 years, bro. I'm not gonna lie, bro. We have made a finals appearance, but even that, we missed that opportunity. There were so many opportunities for us just to make it there, just to make it to the dance. There's an alternate universe where the Celtics make the finals like 4 times in the last 5 years, bro. It's some crazy shit, man. Fuck.
It happened or why? Boston's championship level coach was exiled after just 1 season, leaving players and the fan base alike totally blindsided. It was the very last situation this specific unit needed. In his place, Joe Mazzulla, an existing part of the coaching staff, so not technically as terrible.
Joe is growing on me though. Like as a person, he's growing on me. But his coaching philosophy still scares the fuck out of me, man.
It could have been. Still an unwelcome disruption with the time potentially ticking on a title window. Alleviating those worries was a midsummer trade sending 5 players and a pick to Indiana for Malcolm Brogdon. The ball handling concern simply had to be addressed, with a steady hand serving as a very welcome sight. There wasn't a single element missing from the team outside of composure and maybe, possibly, sorta kinda Udoka. They would finish with nearly 60 wins, luckily somehow only netting them the 2nd seed in the East. Tatum had become a flat-out superstar, averaging 30 points a game, with Jaylen Brown not far behind at 26. Robert Williams' check engine light remained flashing, however, appearing in only 35 total games. Lack of shooting on his part was limiting enough. Only sparingly being able to provide his defensive role was sure to be a death sentence for the Big's tenure in Boston at some point. Atlanta taking this team 6 was the first warning sign. In no way were they a terrible team. There was also just no reason for the 7th game.
This should have been a sweep, but as soon as Trae Young hit that, man. That game 3 Trae Young game, man.
Scared to nearly materialize. Boston avoided it, then Philly was on the schedule once again, who at this point just had no...
I ain't gonna lie, bro. 2023 was the most... The 2023 playoffs, the most stressful Celtics run I've ever been a part of. So, number one, again, that first series should have never went to 6. That should have been a sweep. That's number one. Number 2, that Philly series went to 7. Tatum was stinking it up. Game 6, I've never been so frustrated with this fucking team. Jason Tatum was playing like shit. And then somehow he hits 3 straight threes to extend the season. And then Game 7 is Game 7. That's going to be a stressful scenario regardless of what the fuck happens. But he drops 50, so I get hype as fuck. And I... it up on stream. If you know, you know. And then we go to the Eastern Conference Finals, and somehow, even though the Heat were a play-in team and managed to be on the other side of the bracket, 3 rounds later, we still somehow fucking met up with them. Which, side note, going back a little bit, I was already stressed watching the Heat because I didn't want to play them in the first round. And then the matchup we got actually pushed us to 6. So then we go to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then we end up still facing the Heat. And then we go down 3-0. And then for the next 4 games, we have elimination games. We win 3 of the next 3 games. And then Game 7 is again Game 7. Bro, I have never been so stressed in my life as a Celtics fan, bro. I'm not gonna lie, that whole playoff run was more stressful than the year prior when we actually made it to the finals and had a chance, bro. Like, those 3 rounds, I lost years. I swear to God, I lost years.
Mental edge in what was supposed to be a rivalry after 3 meetings in recent years. To be fair, it was very nearly lights out after 7 grueling matches, including Game 1 where James Harden willed the squad to an improbable win without Embiid. It was the 2nd warning sign. Their spirit was very clearly broken after Game 6 though, as Embiid once said, quote, "They always kick our ass." Jason Tatum's heroics in Game 6 and 7 suggested a corner may have been turned finally, which provided much momentum headed into their 3rd conference finals against Miami in 4 years. Well, that was the thought process. reality brought forth the nastiest, most disrespectful 3-0 lead against a contending team maybe ever. Yet another meltdown, this time to a 7 seed fans had no faith in a little over a month ago. In short hindsight, I do believe had they gone on to be swept, we'd not be looking at the same Celtic team today. Being their 5th deep run with no cigar was one thing, getting brutally swept by a rival you've beaten 1 time since 2010? The front office would just have to have some pride, most likely. Not only would there be no sweep though, Boston recovered to very nearly pull off the greatest comeback ever. Graphics were being made, Celtics fans were nearly celebrating. Regardless of the
Game 6 alone, I forgot about Game 6. Game 6 alone, chat? Oh my God. The Derek White putback for the win, chat? Yo. Oh my God.
The result,
bro.
Derek White's game winner will live on in history. I don't believe I'll see a better overall game anytime soon. Despite the valiant effort, the Tatum and Brown led Celtics failed once again after so much fanfare, so many expectations, yet only 1 NBA Finals appearance to show for. Perception of the group became so embarrassing, in fact, the league watched on in laughter as Brad Stevens was forced to fork over $300 million to Brown, a star who seemed to exhibit similar limitations as the year before. Tatum's extension will arrive this summer, locking in a small fortune between the two whilst rendering the future supporting cast questionable. Speaking of which, recently Stevens decided to toss the kitchen sink at it. Marcus Smart could have conceivably been a Celtic lifer. How could you possibly justify running it all the way back though? His value to the team also converted to value on the market, enabling a deal to bring in Kristaps Porzingis, quietly emerging from one of his top seasons in the association. Rob Will had an incredible role in these contending units.
I'm honestly surprised we were able to pull off Drew and Kristaps, because going into the Jaylen Brown extension talks, there was a lot of talk about, if Jaylen Brown signs with the Celtics from a salary cap perspective is going to get locked up. Like, there is going to be zero depth on this team outside of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And I believe, and it was because of the luxury tax rule or whatever. Like, they were going to pay out the wazoo with the tax. And you know what the Celtics said? Hey, we standing on business. Fuck it, man. And we got bags over here, y'all. Hey, we got bags over here. If the rest of the league is gonna play scary, we're not. And honestly, it can go down really bad. But I fuck with that though. I really do. I fuck with that mindset.
Restrictions and long stretches out of the lineup had also clearly contributed to their last few eliminations. Stevens sent him, along with an unhappy Malcolm Brogdon, to the gulag for Jrue Holiday, who'd recently been abandoned by the team he'd literally just expressed the intent to play with forever. And so, there are your 2024 Boston Celtics. 15 years removed from 2008 and many eons removed from the dynasty before that. The Big Three Celtics have marked themselves possibly the most off-putting title team ever to fans.
Listen, special to me, which is fine, but from the outside looking in, I have never seen a team hang on to one ring as much as the 2008 Celtics. You don't hear the 04 Pistons talking like this. You don't hear even the 2019 Raptors. You've never heard the 2019 Raptors talk like this. You've never heard... You don't even hear the 2016 Cavs talk like this. You know what I'm saying? 2019 Raptors are close. Dude, the 2019 Raptors talk crazy, though. I don't think they talk crazy like this, to be honest with you. Maybe the fans do, but the players speaking on it the way that they do is kind of crazy. I saw you think they want, like, dead ass. Like, even as a Celtics fan, they talk like they've legitimately, like, three-peated, bro. Like, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. I think you'd have to go all the way back to, like, I don't even know. I don't even know of another team that really brags about a championship like this. Maybe the 2011 Mavs? But the play, like, I've never heard Dirk just fuck y'all, man. I'm a finals MVP. I've never heard Jason Kidd or Tyson Chandler go out like that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, this has to be the most insufferable championship team of all time, bro.
Pierce continues to hate on LeBron openly in the media. Their long-standing treatment of Ray Allen endears the group to nobody outside of Boston. KG isn't even that far removed from claiming the squad broke LeBron, and a new quote about their ring seems to hit the web every year. The reaction this evokes is predictable. Fans feel the super team's ring is being milked, then it draws a spotlight over their recent history. Sure, you've got the most titles of any franchise ever, but boy, there sure is a lack of anything recent given how much hype they're constantly receiving. Then a conversation happens about all the banners the franchise has and when they were won. In short,
wrinkly ass banners. No, I get it. Cause that ass, look at these banners. Look. This looks like it hasn't been washed in 30 years, y'all. Like, come on, bruh. And even as a Celtics fan, like, I truly don't have any pride in the Larry Bird Celtics era or the Bill Russell Celtics era, bruh. Like, I am a 08 fan and on. I'm a 08 fan and on. Anything prior to that, you can call us shitty. We can have these all-time conversations. You can shit on us all time, all you want. Because I truly think the Lakers are a better franchise all time anyways. I'm just a 08 Celtics fan and on. That's it. That's it to me. As simple
they
as
are
that.
a lightning rod. At the time of this recording, Boston dons a 16-5 record, once again regularly being referred to as the best team in the league by opponents. Expectations? Check. Talent? Check. Only time will tell if it all comes together. But for the purposes of this video, in a nutshell, this has been how the Boston Celtics have won exactly one title since Larry Bird Celtics, and no titles despite the hoopla since the master plan on a sunny day in the mid-2000s.
Yeah, I think what the Celtics have been doing is being too optimized. I think that's what's been their downfall. They have been too optimized in their moves, you know? They've been playing they've been, first of all, shout out to Dom 2K for the video. Fantastic video. But up until this year, the Celtics have just been moving way too scary. They've been moving way too scary. They haven't decided a direction that they want to go in. And as much criticism as the duo of Tatum and Brown have been getting, I really like the fact that they just decided to, okay, this is our core. All right. We've spent years trying to, is it Kyrie and Al Horford? Is it Kemba and Hayward? Is it Kemba and Tatum? No. All right, let's, if the question is about the totem pole and the fact that there hasn't been any clarity with that, let's set the clarity right now. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown right there. All right, these are the dudes we are building around. I like the fact that they're going all in with the Kristaps trade. I like the fact that they signed Jrue Holiday. Will it pan out? We will see. We will fucking see. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think really what they fucked up is just putting Tatum and Brown in really high expectation situations as a 26-year-old and as a 27-year-old. Like, those expectations should only start at this point. But it feels like they've been having these expectations for three to 5 years now, which I think is unfair to them, but it is what it is. It is what it is. A lot of players would die to be in the situations that they have been in, and they gotta show out. You know, they have to show out, and the excuses are getting slimmer and slimmer as they age. You know, that lack of experience excuse gets cornier, gets less valid as they grow older, you know? So we'll see. I'm excited for this year. I personally think this is our best chance of winning the title. Would it be? Yeah, I think this is gonna be our best chance to win the title. I'm looking at the Bucks, and the Bucks are solid, but I still think they're beatable. Out in the West, I don't think there's a juggernaut out in the West that really scares me, even as much as the 2022 Warriors. And I would even argue the 2023 Nuggets. I don't even see a 2023 Nuggets type of team out in the West right now. Miami obviously scares me. That's listen, what I don't need to say that. Obviously, if we face Miami, I am on some I need to see it to believe it that we sweep them type shit. Every single game, let's play ball. Roll out that ball, and let's not play like this is just gonna be given to us. Yeah, Miami is literally just PTSD at this point. That is literally it. That is literally it. But yeah, I think compared to the competition in the rest of the league, in my opinion, this is our best chance to not only make the finals, but win a championship. And I'm excited. If we go to the finals, my mistake last year was I ain't gonna lie, I was a little bit too confident. I didn't go to any playoff games because of the fact that I thought that the Celtics were gonna make it to the finals, and then that I ended the season not going to any playoff Celtics games. So I'm definitely gonna go to more Celtics games this year. I've already gone to one. But again, shout out to Dom2K for the video. And shout out to Dom2K for being a father. Once again, that's big time.